I thought I was saying that. I look at the camera. Things are worse. Well, city council, we serve different Jesuses. The Jesus I serve is different than the one that they serve. The Jesus I serve will not treat people like that. I think that's why some people did not want him as the mayor to represent all of us, because he was so divisive and so negative. When you work in a nonprofit area, you see the best of people. You see caring people. You see people that genuinely love one another and want to give of themselves to make their community better. I don't see a lot of representation in our community of color. I don't see a lot of representation across the board in our community. At the bottom of the day, is Jesus pleased with your service? And that's what it comes to.
The foster kids.
Yes, 4.
40?
Yeah, that's a lot. I need my head examined.
Yeah.
To my African-American brothers, they got to have a voice, and they need to hear my voice.
Welcome to another edition of No Holds Barred. I'm Rich Roth, and my guest today, Dr. Sterling Wilder. First of all, thank you. Great to have you.
It is an honor to be here, and thank you so much for having me. I really appreciate it.
Well, be careful what you call an honor until afterwards.
Oh, I'm good. I'm good. I've been interviewed by Oprah, so I'm good. I'm good.
Yeah, I mean, you've won a ton of awards. I mean, you've got an unbelievable background. Your education, the nonprofits, foster kids, over 40 foster kids you've fathered, Jubilee, and we're going to get into all of this.
Yes, sir.
But you know where I want to start.
Okay. Oh, the joy of my life. My kids. No. Well,
go ahead.
I was going to circle, but I didn't mean to say that. But go ahead.
City council.
Okay.
We've been on city council since 2016.
Yes.
And I don't even live in the city. And I was telling you beforehand that since I guess 2020, it's become a source of entertainment for me and a lot of others. And, you're the first council member to accept an invitation onto this show. So I thank you for that.
Yes, sir.
You weren't the first one to be invited, however.
Okay.
Do you want to guess?
I can.
You want to guess who turned me down?
Marty. I don't know. I'm not sure who turned you down. I'm not sure.
Well, Chris Ferrell.
I would say probably Chris. Yeah.
And we'll see about Marty. I haven't asked anybody else, but when I was thinking about it, my thoughts all of a sudden turned to, you're the lone Democrat now on council. And man, if you go back, 10, 15 years ago, it was dominated by Democrats. Yes. So it's really turned over. And
I think the last person was not Julian. Oh my gosh. Another person who had my seat. It was him versus like 6 Republicans, I believe. I can't think of his name. Oh my goodness.
Wow.
I'm embarrassed.
Don't be.
Yes.
But I'm just sitting there thinking to myself.
Haskins. I'm sorry, Mr. Haskins.
Okay.
Yeah, excuse me.
But I'm just sitting there thinking to myself, the circus, and you described it. I always ask my guests, hey, can you give me some information? Give me a bio. And I'm just going to show this for the camera.
Yes.
How many sheets of paper? You gave it all to me.
Well, I try to have it ready because of city council, because of Jubilee, because of the work that I do.
Yeah.
Sometimes I always ask for a bio or something like that.
Yeah.
So I try to have those documents ready.
Well, I appreciate that, and I'm gonna refer to that a little bit later on, because there were some things in there that stood out to me that I want to talk to you about this. But as far as council goes, obviously it started in 2020.
Yes,
really seemed to become quite a circus, and that's continued.
Yes,
and I'm thinking to myself, you're the lone Democrat, and you've got all these Republicans. The infighting and just all the insanity of what's going on. And I just thought to myself, if I were you, I'd just be sitting back kind of enjoying and I know you're not. I know it really bothers you, because one of the things you put in here was it's a circus-like atmosphere, and I think you used the word shameful.
Oh, yeah, it is.
As far as what's going on in city council. A quick overview of where council's at right now.
The thing is, I'm from Lynchburg. I've been here since really all my life. I was born in another city because my father was pastoring 2 churches, but we were living in Lynchburg and in another city. So I was born there, but I've been here all my life. That's all I know is Lynchburg. So I love Lynchburg. Went to EC Glass High School. Had a great education, some great teachers. I enjoyed the Garland Rose Elementary School that's been closed. So I really enjoyed my life here in Lynchburg. So I wanted to give back to my community, like through city council, through school board. I've always served. I volunteered. So you have a passion for something and you love something, your family, you want the best for that. And to see the way city council has been over the past couple of years has been disheartening, has been sad, has been, again, shameful. We get the news and they publicize us for a lot of the negative stuff, a lot of the arguing, the fighting that goes on the city council, the name calling. They've had some choice words for each other. It was really sad. And then it's just been, so much back and forth bickering where sometimes a few sessions we've had to close because they were arguing so bad. We had to shut the meeting down. And we had stuff on the agenda, like we had to approve some additional funding for social services, additional funding for the adult program area of the aging. There's some additional funding to approve for that. We couldn't do it because they were arguing so much. It got so tense, they had to close the meeting.
Is there one or two incidents that stand out? Because, again, I don't live in the city.
Yes.
I've never been super involved or interested in local politics. And maybe that's a fault of mine because you live in a community, you want to, be involved. But again, not being in the city. But then when this whole thing started and, I guess for a lot of us, it kind of started in 2020 with the choice of mayor, right? I mean, Jeff Helgeson being passed over, it went to Stephanie Reed. That started all the infighting with the Republicans. Now, one thing I know that you've talked about, and I wanted to get some clarification on this, but, you said that there were some Republicans, including Veronica Bratton, who told you that they didn't want Jeff to be mayor.
Yes.
Now
I do not want to use her name.
Oh, okay.
So yes.
Okay.
So
because I was going to say I did ask her,
yes,
and she said she didn't even meet you until after.
Yes. Yeah, so I met him. I called back. So I met him. My time was mixed up.
Okay.
So I do not talk about that because I don't want to speak for someone without them being here or something of that nature. So I don't feel comfortable with that part.
Okay.
But again, several people did contact me about that. Because
well, do me a favor, walk me through that from your perspective, because they're trying to pick a mayor.
Yes.
The Republicans are doing their little backroom deals or whatever's going on. Right. Jeff doesn't get it. Stephanie gets it. She's got no experience. What are you guys as Democrats sitting there thinking as all this is going on?
Well, the challenge was we didn't have a lot of choices, and over time, I appreciate Jeff's perspective, but that's his perspective. We didn't agree on a lot of issues, but he was more, a little, I guess, more radical, more outspoken, like against certain things, like the downtown improvement area and certain others he was against. Where I believe I don't want to say the Republican Party, but like the business leaders, they were in favor of things like the renovation of downtown and bringing certain things to the city. I feel, and this is Sterling speaking, some people don't want Lynchburg to grow. They want to keep it a small city. They don't want certain things like the infrastructure. They want certain things to be brought into the city, like the amphitheater and various other things. They attract more tourists, they attract more visitors. That's where I feel is because they fight it so much when it comes up. And I think his area has been so against certain things. So people saw how outspoken he was and also how he's not much negative. He was known as Mr. No while he was on city council. So he was no to this, no to the schools.
And that's no is an N-O, not K-N-O-W.
No, yeah.
Gotcha.
He was so, had some challenges with the schools. Now, I've served on the school board. I have challenges with the school system, but I try to work with them and make sure they have a better school system. But he was so against the school system, and it made that so known. I think that's why some people did not want him as the mayor to represent all of us, because he was so divisive and so negative.
Do you think he was really against growth of the city, or against the city school system, or just had a different way that he wanted to? Because I mean, I would have to hope, right, Republican or Democrat, that you all want the best for the city. You're just coming at it from different approaches. Is that accurate or no?
Again, I don't want to speak for him, but speaking for Sterling,
okay,
the actions I've seen from people, if you care about somebody, you wouldn't tear them down. You wouldn't have your own agenda, and you would see how I could give up on this. Sometimes I got to compromise certain areas, but we see people that don't want to compromise, that don't want to look at it from another point of view, that don't even want to be cordial. To me, that's destructive. So I think we've been, to me, a self-destructive group who, only way I can see it is if you have a vendetta or a passion against the city or don't want to see the city grow, especially any taxpayer funds. Like when the taxpayers want to send some money to help renovate the Academy Theater, or help renovate downtown, or help renovate some funds went for the Virginian, the hotel, or the Bluff Walk. We had some challenges times, whatever. They were against certain things like that, which are things that are trying to bring things to revitalize downtown, to bring more culture, to bring more tourists, to bring more excitement to a city. So those things, it becomes like the taxpayer funds and giving a portion of those, they were so against that. So it may be the fact that they are so against using taxpayer funds for anything, it makes it a little challenging.
Yeah, and I certainly don't want to make this whole thing about Jeff Helgeson, and we'll move along.
Please don't.
But I've got to ask, you talk about how divisive he was, and he was Mr. No and against everything. So he's no longer on council.
Yes.
Are things better?
Oh, this is even worse. Yeah. And I never thought I would say that. I look at the camera. Things are worse.
Bring back Jeff Helgeson? Can I get you to say that?
I don't know about that. Oh my God. It's interesting. It's interesting. I mean, it's just, you have factions on city council. You have this 3 here, this 2 here, and then you have one in the middle, don't know what to do. It's just, it's really sad. It's really sad.
So what's it like? I mean, being the lone Democrat, and again, you've seen all kinds of different things. How do you explain to folks what goes on, maybe even behind closed doors, because you talked about the name calling, which we all know about.
Yes.
Or I should say we all know about some of it. Closed door stuff, we don't know what was going on.
Yes.
Emails that are going back and forth. Physical altercations, perhaps. I mean, what's it like?
For me, and I'm a people pleaser. So even though I grew up in a large family, we were Pentecostal, so we're a real loving family. So by me being a people pleaser and in a loving family, to be in that kind of hostile environment, I'm not used to that. And I've been in church again all my life. In church, you have a lot of challenges, but still, I'm not used to people being this angry with each other or mad to each other, or they'll just do things I'll call a point of order over something simple, like a note. You left out a period, a point of order. I mean, I'm just exaggerating, but simple little things, they like to get after one another. And you see it on the camera all the time. It's a simple thing. You can look at a session and say, that point of order was not necessary. But because this one did, then I'm going to do it. And it's like elementary school room where, because you tapped me, I'm going to tap you back, and I'm going to tap you more. And then my friend going to jump into it as well. So that's what we do. A lot of times, I've had so many circles where I go into. If I go to a fundraiser, most people come up to me and say, oh, like I've had a death. Oh, I'm so sorry you have to deal with that. Oh, I'm so sorry. And I've had Republicans to come to me. And this man, I was at a restaurant. This man I don't even know, he came to me and says, I'm a lifelong Republican. I'm a conservative Republican, but I thank you for being on city council. I thank you for being the lone civil voice that's on there. And so many people, whether it's Democrat, whether it's Republican, whether it's independent, whatever, so many people come up to me and say that to me.
I think there are a lot of folks who thought things might return to some sense of civility with Jeff being gone. And don't get me wrong. I mean, I understand his perspective as well. Been there forever, experienced, maybe probably should have been named mayor. He gets undercut by his own party, and people thinking, okay, now that he's gone, we're good. But you're telling us it's even worse. What's the biggest problem?
Well, if you've looked at it, you know who the biggest problem is. First
I just want you to say it.
The challenge is you have a person who has been suing the city on city council. Mm-hmm. That's to me, that's a conflict to me. But I'm not the voter. Well, I am a voter, but he's not. But anyway, but the voters make their choice. But to me, to have a person like that that's on city council that has an active lawsuit against the city. Who was I think he feels he was wrongly terminated or whatever the case may be, but who's been terminated from his office. to be on now city council where you're over the police, the fire chief, you're over all those people that terminated you. You know, if they got rid of you from WLNI, how would you feel? You may, but it's almost like my own radio station. I'm gonna have a vendetta against them. And that's where I see it sometimes. It's like I have to prove myself now. So I'm going to, I don't want to say make them pay, but because you have such a maybe it's a hurt or some situation that you have, it makes it really toxic. To me, it's toxic when you're in that position and you know you have those feelings against certain people. To me, it's not therapeutic. It's not helpful to the city.
You talked before about how important it is for you to give back, right? And we talked about Jubilee. You spent some time up in Washington, D.C. as an auditor, wound up coming back because this is home and you want to be here and part of this community. You start Jubilee, you're involved with mentoring programs, you're fostering kids, and you're on city council to help make the city that you live in and grew up in better. And it's a circus.
Yes.
Do you regret being on council now? Do you wish you weren't?
No. It's not pleasant. I have left meetings crying. I mean, I've left meetings fearful, and not saying they were going to attack me, but you just feel because you see how radical some people are. You know, like Congressman, I mean, not Congressman, but Wendell Walker got a threat the other day, I understand. You know, so you have people out here that are really unstable. And we've had city council meetings where people, oh my gosh, to me, some people, you know, you voice your concern, but again, sometimes I think, if I feel some people are maybe a little unstable, and they threaten us and yell at us, that kind of thing. And it gets a little nerve-wracking, you know, at some point. But again, I feel like I have to have that voice at the table. If you're not, and someone told me, if you're not at the table, you're going to be on the menu. And I feel like I have to continue to fight for my voice, speak for people who are less fortunate, who are not at that table. So anytime I can get at any table, if it was a board table, if it was a city council table or a school board table or whatever the table might be, I'm going to make sure I have my voice at the table and represent people that look like me or that have values like me.
What do you think it'll take? And you know, you talk about people threatening you guys on council, and obviously that's not right. Right. I mean, I think we can all agree that as a society, as a country, we've gone way too far as far as political violence and all that.
Yes.
But the flip side is the people who are acting that way to you guys on council, they're almost acting the same way that council's acting. It's almost like they're following the lead of council. What do you think it will take to bring civility and normalcy back to city council?
A new election.
Okay.
That's what it's going to take. It'll take a new election. And it's not a campaign thing, whatever. But again, you've got to get some persons on council.
So you don't think the current council?
Oh, no. It would never. No. And I'm a man of faith. I'm a strong man of faith. I'm a strong man of belief that lives can be changed. I believe that. I've seen kids who sold drugs become going to get education, buy houses. I've seen persons transform their lives. But again, with the kind of people you're dealing with, it's not going to happen. It's not going to happen. They are too rooted in issues within themselves. They can't get over that, and it's never going to happen.
And obviously, that doesn't benefit the city.
No, that's why the city suffers. You know, that's why I have to be. You know, sometimes. I mean, we had a break during the summertime, like a month break. It was wonderful. I'm serious. It was therapeutic because it's just like if you have cancer, you don't want to take chemotherapy. It weakens you. It makes your hair fall out. You don't want to do that, but you know it's going to save your life. And even with city council, I don't really want to do it, but I feel like I have to. And sometimes, in transparency, I almost feel like the whole city's on your shoulder, because I feel like if I'm not there, like I plan my life around Tuesdays. I plan my vacations around city council because I just feel like I've got to be there, because so many times something happens that's, they'll change the law, not really change the law, but do something that's not planned or put something in the agenda that's not really prepared, we're not prepared for, because they have their own agenda ready. So I've got to always be present and be ready to speak up when those things happen.
Is it frustrating to be the only Democrat, knowing that a lot of the issues that are more Democrat than Republican are really going to have a tough time passing? Because even though there's a lot of bickering and infighting with the Republicans, more often than not, on a lot of the bigger issues, they still tend to stick together, right?
One thing I have learned, most of the issues are not Democrat-Republican issues. They're city issues. Now, we had a lot of controversy about the tax rate. That was one of the big issues, about how low to make it and this and that. And I didn't say this, I didn't say all that stuff. It was horrible. But again, the thing is, some people understand they may want lower tax rate, but they understand the city has obligations. So, for example, when we lowered the tax rate, they gave us a list of certain things to cut to the Templeton Senior Citizen Center. Now, who wants to cut money to Senior Citizens Community Center? They cut certain things at Parks and Rec. They cut out the Mayor's Youth Council. They cut out the art studio on one of the other Parks and Rec centers. So they did a lot of cuts, and then they come back and say, "Oh, I didn't know it was going to be cut." I'm like, "What did you expect?" You can't do certain things if you reduce the budget and reduce those taxes. You don't have the same income coming in. So obviously something had to be cut. So that left a big frustration. So some of them did not want certain things cut, so they didn't want it so low. They understood that the tax rate did not need to be at a certain level. So in talking with city staff and talk with the city finance director who's been doing it for like 30 years, who was a CFO at Liberty University, who was well-educated CPA. She recommended certain things and told us she don't know how we're going to do it with a certain tax rate. It's not going to be good for the city to maintain our certain bond rating, to maintain our statute and all with our lenders and things of that nature, whatever, to do obligations. We can't go but a certain level. So some people listen to her, and some people say, "Oh no, we can cut the fat, we can cut this." It's almost like and I'm just honest. It's feel like I don't trust you at all. That we're in a country now where we don't trust government whatsoever. Like, you're lying to me. I don't trust you. There's a way you can save some money here. Even when it comes to the pool, they give us some pool renovations, some numbers there. Oh, Roanoke built the pool so and so. Why can't we do the same thing? I looked at the pool in Roanoke. It's like a third of the size of our pool. Of course, it's going to be cheaper. So to me, those situations are happening.
It's interesting. And you said before that you're a man of faith, very involved in your church.
Yes.
Have been all the way through.
Yes.
And I know one of the things that churches do really well is support people in need.
Yes.
Right. And, you talk about different programs and tax dollars going to different things. And we've seen an amazing revitalization in the city. I'm not from here, but I remember moving here. And when I'd first moved here, it was 1:00 in the afternoon on a Saturday afternoon. And I drove down Main Street. And there were only a couple of traffic lights, and they were just flashing, right? They weren't even on because no one was ever downtown. Yes. And it's really been revitalized. Yes. And my understanding, and of course you can correct me if I'm wrong, but my understanding is a big part of what helped that was cutting taxes and encouraging private citizens to buy up those buildings, renovate them. And, when people come in and do that with their own money, they're going to take better care of stuff than when the government's just handing out checks. So when we look at a lot of the programs, one of the other things that's amazing here in Lynchburg, and it continues to just blow me away, is how supportive people are of all the nonprofits we have. You guys are heavily involved with Mustaches for Kids.
Which is an amazing organization.
And they do amazing work,
Yes.
and we see a lot of people donating money to do that. So, it kind of comes to the question of, is it better for the government to help people out, or is it better for individual private charities like Jubilee to help people out?
I think we have to have a little bit of both. Now, the part you mentioned about the lower tax and encourage people to come downtown, I'm not familiar with that part.
Okay.
I know it was a 2020 plan back in the day, like 20
Well,
plus
I mean,
years
that may have been even earlier.
Yeah, but the 2020 plan requires certain renovation. And because of the person who owned council at the time, who was majority Democrats, they made choices to invest certain money downtown. So invest certain money through CDBG funds, through various other funds, through the city funds, to renovate certain streets, to do certain infrastructure things, to encourage businesses coming downtown. So that's been happening over the past 20 plus years, a plan that they developed where they continue to renovate to see how we can encourage more tourists, more businesses downtown. So there's been a long process. They have making investments downtown. So that's a big portion. And as far as nonprofits and the cities, I think we all have a part to play. I think it's all work hand in hand. Again, some churches can do certain things that they can do, and the city can do certain things as well. But I think it'll take all of us working together. The challenge I have is that we get to the place, the way I've this with Sterling talking, we get to play, and I don't want to be like overtaxed, and I understand people that say that kind of thing. But again, it's at the point where some of us are people of faith. And you know, in that scripture where it is, and I'm not trying to get to a biblical discussion, but we're talking about the rich young ruler who when Jesus told him the 17 he had to follow me, but he didn't want to do it because he didn't want to give up his worldly possessions. You know, and I'm sure it's more deep discussions. I'm not a biblical scholar, so I'm not trying to get into a biblical discussion of that. But so many times, to me, it's like we want to build a bigger barn and keep money for ourselves and not give money to other people. And when I go to like a lot of nonprofit functions, it's almost like there are two Lynchburgs. You know, there's a Lynchburg that gives to like the nonprofit, that gives to these organizations. And then there's another group of Lynchburg that like, oh my God, I just want to keep everything for myself. I don't want to spend no more money on the roads. I won't spend no money on the amphitheater. I won't spend money on this revitalization. I just want to keep money. I don't want no more of my money to go to none of these projects. And I hear both sides, you know, and I understand there needs to be a balance. I understand that, but it just so many times it's like for me as a man of faith and a person who gives more than 10%, but gives more to my church, that I believe in giving. I believe in whether it's foster care, whether it's different nonprofits, not just Jubilee, but I support several nonprofits. It's like because of my faith, encouraged me to be a giver. You know, and the Lord blessed me. And I look at my life with Jubilee and some of the other things and Oprah and all the other things. I think it's because of my faith, because of my giving, because my parents were seed sowers. My parents were givers. I feel like the Lord has blessed me with certain connections, with certain people that have been right there because I've been a giver. I've been a seed sower, and I have seen the benefits. I've been a consistent giver and a consistent seed sower. So if you worry about building your bigger barn and building this, like for example, I've been in my house almost 10 years now, right before I ran on city council the first time. And I was moving from Fort Hill to somewhere in Ward 2. And I was like, oh, I went on a home tour with the YWCA, was doing that designer home, and they had the house on Langhorne Road. And I went to break before you get to Virginia Baptist Hospital. And I was like, oh, wow, that is a really nice house. I was saying to myself, I would love to have a design house like that, where somebody comes to help me design a house. The next year, I bought a house, and they selected my house for a design house. I don't look at that as coincidence. I look at that as a work of the Lord, saying, this is what my son wants. I'm going to give him what he desires. Yeah, I had to pay for a lot of things I didn't know I had to pay for. But again, he gave me the desires of my heart. So I look at myself as being a giver. And I look and see how the Lord has given me things that I didn't even pay for, but he's given me things from blessings, from other benefits of being a giver. And I feel like we as a society have gotten so far away from that. It's about me. It's about my house. It's about my bank account. I don't want to pay for anything else than other people.
And that could be an issue.
Yes.
But you look at, and I think that's one of the cool things about living in a free country is people kind of have the option of doing what they want with it, right? Rather than, being told how much to give or, taxed, right, at an extremely high rate. Because again, when you earn money, you feel like that's my money. I earned it. I should be able to do with it what I want, right?
Yes. Again, that's so true. But again, my Christian faith tells me to support other people. My Christian faith tells me to help those that are poor. My Christian faith tells me to feed the hungry. I do what Jesus did. That's what my faith tells me. Now, everybody has a different faith.
Right.
and everybody has different. I've realized on city council, we serve different Jesuses. The Jesus I serve is different than the one that they serve. The Jesus I serve will not treat people like that. So again, I'm not questioning no one's religion. I am saying
it sounds
that
like you
my
are.
religion is different from what I've been taught. I just haven't been taught that way. So we all have different families, different structures. We have different upbringings. I'm Pentecostal. You know, I don't know what you are. But again, I'm Pentecostal. So we're more exciting. We shout. We speak in tongue. We do all those kind of charismatic, what you would call it, kind of things. Some people say, oh my God, that's strange. That's weird. Oh, why would you? We lay hands on people. We believe in healing. So some people say, well, that's strange. You know, some people might think that's different and weird, you know.
You speak in tongues?
You know, actually, we speak in tongues, yes. I'm not going to speak in tongues right here today, but...
Why? I've never heard it.
You know, come to my church sometime. Yeah. And we can do a lesson. Again, we can do a lesson on that. But again, because my church is different for some people like you, some people might say that's weird. That's strange. You know, if you ever been to like funerals. Like if we go to funerals, I was more of a homegoing. I was more we shout, we praise God for like they live to go to heaven kind of thing. So our lives are different. Our teachers have been different. But again, I'm saying the way that I've been taught to treat people is different than other people.
I understand.
They all say they love Jesus. Oh, we serve Jesus. They do those prayers. Like, for example, I don't, when I'm a city, if I'm at church, I pray in Jesus' name. You know that. I do with Jesus. If I'm on city council, because everybody's not religious, everyone's not Christian, you have different religions, I try to be respectful of other people's religions, so I'm careful how I might pray. But I'm praying more so as a unity type prayer, but I'm not praying to bring God down, to bring on the Holy Ghost, to bring in for a revival to come forth when I'm on city council. It's more of like a proclamation type prayer. You know, so to me, it's different prayers I would do in church versus on city council.
Well, let me ask you this, because I want to move on to other things and don't want to dwell on city council too long. But I do want to ask, where is our city now? Where is Lynchburg now? Is Lynchburg in pretty good shape?
As far as what you mean, because financially,
I just mean the city. I mean, like what I see. You know. From afar. I don't know a lot about the finances of the city or all that. But I see growth. I see a lot going on downtown, right? I know Liberty's an awfully big part of it, and some other big companies are. But, you know, Lynchburg seems to be in a pretty good place right now.
You know, we have a great dedicated staff, an amazing city attorney, amazing city manager. We have some great staff members that are devoted to the city that have been there for years, some 20, 30 years. So you have a good infrastructure that's in place. So I appreciate that, like with Margaret Upshur, who's been the Economic Development Director for several years. She knows all the businesses. If you know Margaret, she is a fireball. So people like that continue to fight for our city, continue to make sure our city is growing. So I'm so glad that those things are in place. Now, are they have come under a lot of attack lately. You know, a lot of frustration for the city staff. You know, it's been challenging for them. So I pray they stay. I pray they continue to be encouraged. I pray that they hold out, because they've received a lot of attacks.
But as far as the city itself, right? I mean, we talked about the dysfunction of city council.
Yes.
But despite all that, Lynchburg seems to be growing and prospering and
because they're great city staff.
Okay.
Yes, and they're consistent. Now they may go home and cry every day, because if you watch a city council meeting and you can see how they interrogate, how they question the city staff, how they belittle them, how they say I don't believe what you're saying. Now how do you do that? You know, it just, to me, they've been really. They really have been not the best as far as addressing city staff with respect.
But okay, so the respect may not be there, but you know, we can't always just go along with what everybody says. They need to be questioned. They need to be grilled. Might not be the right word, but pressed or drilled down, right, to find out if what they're saying really is accurate, or if there are other ways to do things.
Make sure you understand what I'm saying. I'm not saying that question.
Okay.
I'm not saying I get an understanding of where things are or where the money is going, or the flow of things. So we should always do that. We don't want to just a rubber stamp. We don't want to be the kind of people where you rubber stamp to know what's going on. So we don't want to be those kind of people. Okay. So to me, it's a difference in understanding what's going on and be respectful of one another. I respect you as a person. I don't know you. I respect you as a person. I'm not going to belittle you and call you names or either say, you're lying. I don't believe this. And if I have certain questions that I may not understand, we get our practice on Thursdays. We have plenty of time to kind of get some real more detailed questions ready, whatever. And also, if you have certain concerns, kind of bring them up before the Tuesday meeting and say, I need you to be prepared to discuss this.
And I think you're right on that, right? I mean, there's a way to do that with respect, but still do that. You talked about rubber stamping.
Yes.
In preparation for this conversation and lots of others, always try to talk to different people with different perspectives. You mentioned rubber stamping stuff that the city does. You love the staff.
Yes.
I've heard that from various people about you and the way you vote. And it's always kind of with whatever the city staff recommends. Yeah. Is that fair or not?
Well, it depends on what the issue is. And I do groundwork. I do research. I do respect the staff, especially our city finance director. I really respect her. And certain things, even though I have an accounting degree, stuff is still beyond me. But again, in understanding things and looking at the numbers and getting different points of view and say, I know, for example, I know she's invested in the city. I know she cares about her job. I know she cares. For example, even with our accounting firm that have given us great audits over the years, we received national awards for our accounting department, for our IT department. We received national awards for those things. Those kind of things come into play. And also, at some point, you got to have a certain trust of people. You got to trust them. People that you've hired. You have a city manager.
Trust but verify, right?
Trust but verify. So as long as you trust someone, continue to research information and don't take everything as a rubber stamp. But again, just make sure you listen to people and listen to what's going on, especially those that have invested, and you have a better comfort level where you have a vested interest, and they have a vested interest in the city.
Education is very important to you. Undergrad degree,
yes.
You've got a master's and a doctorate from Lynchburg.
Yes.
You've done coursework at UVA, Moorhead and Harvard. Morehouse.
Yes, sir.
Morehouse and
yes,
Harvard. But University of Lynchburg, University of Lynchburg or Lynchburg College?
Well,
which is it for you? Which is it for you?
Well, Lynchburg College was my master's.
Okay.
I mean, master's in education, counseling, and then a doctorate at University of Lynchburg.
Okay.
So both.
But which is it to you?
Well, I call it University of Lynchburg now, since that's the name.
Okay.
Yes.
All right. Fair enough. I know a lot of Hornets still prefer Lynchburg College.
I go with the flow. I go with the flow. They move on, so have I.
Tell me about Jubilee.
I started in my father's basement of our church on 9th and Taylor at the time. I was doing a mentoring program. And I was commuting back and forth from D.C. to Lynchburg on weekends. And the kids weren't being active, so I started the youth choir like in 87, the youth choir back then, called the Songs of Youth. And then I realized that a lot of young people in the choir didn't have fathers at home, so I started the mentoring program. And I read a book. I was in D.C. at a Barnes & Noble, one of them stores, and I saw a book by Jawanji Kunjufu called Conspiracy to Destroy Black Boys. And one of the things he suggested, in order that kids started about after third grade, started declining in school and blah, 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 and all kind of thing, but he has an early push to special education and certain things to combat that is through a mentoring program. So I said, let me start a mentoring program. So I started the mentoring program on weekends. So I would come in from D.C., do a mentoring program on weekends, and then go back to D.C. After that, you start to find your passion. You find your calling. You find what your real purpose is. And my purpose was to be an internal auditor for FDIC. My purpose was to do a mentoring program and work with families. So we started Jubilee. I left FDIC in 97, came back to Lynchburg on a full-time basis, and I wanted to build a community center. And the place I had was Fifth and Federal. And but the month I came home, I had talked, I don't know if you know Irma Seaford or not, but Interfaith Outreach, I think, was owned that property at the time. And I had just talked to Irma. I said, I want this property. She said, I'll sell it to you. And I said, well, can you give it to me? She said, no. So that was like a month prior. The next, 2 months later, Central bought that property for Johnson Health Center. I said, oh, Lord, but that's not my spot. Just trying to believe by God. And then after I got home, a friend of mine named Mike Anderson was working with Kevin Campbell on building Habitat for Humanity. They had built 50 houses on Jubilee Drive. And Mary Whitaker suggested to Kevin Campbell that it needs to be something for families to do. Y'all need to do a community center. So Kevin took that. And then Mike knew what I was trying to do. So I connected with Mike Anderson, Kevin Campbell, Susan Carrington, now she's Susan Carrington Louder, and several other people before the board of directors. And we bought some property on Florida Avenue and built what's now the Jubilee Family Development Center. 26 years later, we have the main building. We're still in the building, the gym as well. We have a computer lab, classrooms. We bought some property next door, which is an old car wash and laundromat. We won a national award from Paul Newman for changing our car wash laundromat to a career center. And we bought a third building, which is now called the Astronaut Leland Melvin STEM Center. We're working with youth and adults. The youth have a podcast. We have adults have GED, have PCA, nurses ed classes, cybersecurity classes, and other classes for adults to help them get better education, to get them better living wages. So those programs.
You mentioned the podcast and the Leland Melvin STEM Center, but I know Mark Spain was also really instrumental, and that was a big a big favorite kind of organization for him as well.
You know, he selected Jubilee as one of his, they do that, I think Community Cares, and he had selected Jubilee as his community partner. And the goal was raise $10,000. They raised $100,000 in almost a month's time. You know, and we're so thankful to Mark for his passion for our community. And one of the last podcasts that we did, well, one of the first ones that we did was we interviewed Mark Spain. And I didn't want him to do it because we hadn't brought all the equipment yet. I'm like, don't do it now. You know, the Lord works in mysterious ways. And I wanted them to wait to do the broadcast until we got, all the equipment that we said we were going to buy.
Of course.
But they went on and did it anyway. I was like, golly. And not knowing what was going to happen tomorrow.
Yeah.
November is Pancreatic Cancer Month. Not knowing he wouldn't be here that much longer, So I'm thankful for the time that he had with us, that we were able to capture that with our kids. I mean, it just, it blessed my heart now that we were able to capture that. And we're naming our media center after him.
That's awesome.
Yes, sir.
That's
awesome.
awesome.
We're thankful. Yeah.
And I know you have a big campaign going on right now as well that I wanted
We're expanding Astronaut Leland Melvin STEM Center. We're in the process of raising $1 million for that campaign. We're announcing on Monday that Easily is doing a $50,000 match. So for every $50,000 up to $50,000 we raise, they'll match that up to $50,000. So again, our goal is to raise $1 million. We hope to have it raised by next year. So we're almost halfway there now. So we're thankful for a great caring community. Again, we talk about the caring community in Lynchburg. I have seen the best. Between my school board days and my Jubilee days, I have seen some caring community. I'm going to go to city council, I get bricks thrown at me. But again, I've seen the other side of Lynchburg that I continue to love. I did a presentation for United Way at BWXT, and I was telling them, I love this. I love United Way and the work they do for our community. I mean, when you work in a nonprofit area, you see the best of people. You see caring people. You see people that genuinely love one another and want to give of themselves to make their community better. So I appreciate my nonprofit piece because it gives me hope. It gives me strength. It gives me encouragement.
And this campaign and the $1 million that you hope to raise, you said you want to expand the STEM Center. Tell me more about that.
So what we do, we have about 3 classes in the STEM Center right now. So we're going to, the classrooms was small for the number of kids that we had. So we're basically having classes now in the open laboratory space, like the shop area. So the goal is to build 5 more classrooms, a media center, and 4 other classrooms in the extension. We're going to extend that STEM Center. We're going to extend it back and add 5 more classrooms.
Oh, wow.
So we're really excited about that. We can work with more adults, more careers, how to own that room, be the Mark Spain room. I'm dedicated to his memory, and also for the media center where kids can do podcasts. Nowadays, kids do all these things from TikTok to podcasts to all those things they've been doing nowadays. Give them that outlet. Let them have that adventure to explore their idea. Maybe the next person on WLNI, maybe the next person on WSCT, kind of give them that desire for broadcasting or interviewing or have their own podcast program like we do at Jubilee. I think called Jubilee Family JFC podcast, something like that. But again, have their own little touch that they can do.
And I touched on this before, but you have a lot of degrees, a lot of education. Education's always been important to you.
Yes, yes.
Tell me a little bit more about that.
This is from an African American perspective. I don't want there to be any excuse not to put me at the table. So I think I'm telling kids to get as much education as possible. I've got to be the forerunner of that. I've been the example of that. I do not need to get a doctorate degree. But I'm pretty much on the other side of my life. Jubilee is where I'm going. I'm not going anywhere else. I'm just on the other. I'm at the other side, of that river. And so the doctorate didn't mean more money to me. It didn't mean it just increased my knowledge. I also let people see, my community, my kids see, well, if he can become a doctor, so can I. Just to give them more aspirations. And I feel like when you're at that table, you don't want any excuses for them not to promote you. So I like to encourage people, don't let there be an excuse. Say, I'm not qualified or I don't deserve a seat at this table, so I'm going to get as much education as possible.
I'm glad you brought that up because that was one of the things that jumped out at me and all the information you sent me. Yes. Light reading.
Yes.
But I did highlight a couple things that I wanted to kind of, dive into a little bit more. Here you said, I always thought that if I did what my Caucasian brothers did, I could break the glass ceiling. And then a little bit later on, once I get back to Lynchburg, I tried to get on every board possible to again prove myself that I was equal to my Caucasian brothers. Is that as big of an issue now as it was when you were younger, do you feel?
Yeah, because I don't see a lot of representation in our community of color. I don't see a lot of representation across the board in our community. So that's why I go out of my way. So why do you serve so many boards? I go out of my way to make sure we represent it, to make sure we have a voice at the table. Not saying my voice is much different than anybody else, but we all bring different perspectives. And I think from my perspective, it's different than another person's perspective. So I think you have to me a melting pot of perspectives on city council, on boards, in communities. You need to have a perspective where everybody's come from. Like it was I can't think of the exact thing, but it was something that happened on city council. I can't remember the exact thing, but to me, it was normal for something to happen. And then other people who weren't raised like I was raised, like, oh my gosh, that sounds horrible. And I'm like, that's normal, So I can't think of the exact illustration, but I think because we have different perspectives, we have different backgrounds, I think it brings something it brings flavor to the pot. It brings more, I can hear this perspective. Certain things I might not have considered, but I can do this, I can do that. So I think those things to me are important.
You one of the other things that you said here was, and let me read it to make sure I have it right. Since I'm African American, I knew that I had to work twice as hard to get a seat at the table.
Yeah, and I feel that because in society, unfortunately, we're not a colorblind society. And I feel that in order to make sure you're represented, you got to make sure you're bringing it all. I think it's harder. A lot of times people, they might look at your color of your skin and don't promote you. Unfortunately, we're living in a society of that area where
still,
I think we have a lot of challenges. For example, if I look at a department at our city, and I see if I go to graduation, out of the 10 people, I'll see 9 of one particular party per group versus maybe one other person of a different color. And I'm not saying they weren't all qualified. I'm saying, did we make efforts? Does our hiring practice reflect our community? Are we just going to one segment? Do we just go to one school to recruit versus other schools? So we got to look within and say, let's look at this whole process. Do our process to be refined? Are we making efforts to reach out to all parts of our community? So I think my part in bringing some knowledge to that is saying we got to look at this differently. They're not saying why this, why that, but making sure we got to question ourselves. Am I bringing perspective to this? Am I opening up my areas of recruiting? My recruiting practices need to be fine-tuned. That I'm not just going to this church, but that church to interview people or to make announcements? What am I doing to make the announcements about my position being open?
It feels like that's bordering on DEI.
Okay.
Right?
Yeah.
DEI maybe used to be called affirmative action. Yay or nay? I mean,
I don't call it DEI. I call it being a community, because we are a community, and the whole community doesn't just go to First Baptist here. The community goes to all other various churches. So when you're looking at a community, I don't think you should go just to one university. You need to recruit at several universities and making sure I am doing my pool of my community. If your community is 50%, 70% Caucasian, and 20% African American, 10% Hispanic, 4% blah, 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 whatever the case may be, to me, that's a benchmark. And I would look at my population, my staff, does that reflect our community? And then to me, I need to ask myself, what am I doing to make sure I'm making my efforts strong in recruiting my candidates? Am I looking beyond my own personal circle, looking beyond the circle of the city in different areas, in different nets? Am I recruited with this group? Am I recruited with that group to make sure we have a pool that reflects our community?
So you're talking about making sure people know about opportunities that are available rather than hiring to
have a quota. I'm not saying that, And I keep stressing, that's why I say, does your hiring reflect our community? The pool of your people you're hiring reflect our community. If not, then make sure your hiring practices are good. They say, make sure I made efforts to reach all parts of our community. Again, you got to be conscious of yourself and say, yes, I've done my earnest due diligence in reaching out to my community to make sure everyone knows about these positions, everyone knows about opportunities, everyone has an equal chance to apply for this position. Because I've thrown the net out there in other parts. I recruited with the NWCP. I sent them the notice. I've sent it to the Voters League. I've sent it to the Masons. I've sent it to the sororities, this kind of thing. So I make sure I'm recruiting in various areas so they all know about the opportunities that are in my community for these positions.
Now, the flip side is we need to educate people to look for the opportunities where they are, right? Like, I'll give you an example. Here at James River Media, we're posting a job that we have, and we're using a lot of the traditional means, Indeed, throwing it out on our website. We're running ads on WLNI. But I would imagine that people in the inner city communities probably aren't listening to WLNI.
Right.
So they're not going to hear that.
Yes.
They're probably not going to our website.
Yes.
Are they on Indeed? At what point do we need to educate people to look for opportunities rather than just waiting for them to fall in their laps?
I think it's a group effort. We have to, through my program, we try to make sure they are known about Indeed and other areas. We have a career center. When I get a flyer about job openings, I make sure our staff knows about that. We send it to our people in our community or who's looking for jobs. I make sure that. So I'm a facilitator that I kind of branch things out. So I'm knowledgeable enough, I'm on enough boards to make sure they know, they're doing this training, they have this opportunity, they do this class, to make sure people can take advantage of that, this kind of program, make sure of that. So I do what I can as an individual in my community to make sure that voice is there so they know about it. But again, we, in the hiring position, we need to place ourselves in a place where we need to reach out and beyond this group and that group, like the group called Black in the Bird. Make sure they haven't noticed about it. Make sure we're doing, I'm a Christian. I'm a child of God. I love all people regardless of their color. But am I really making efforts to reach people of my color, of other faith, or other, whatever the case may be? Am I really doing my honest best to reach out to people?
Another excerpt from a message, and you titled this "A Message to My Young African American Brothers." This one stood out to me as well. After 30 plus years of trying to impress people and pleasing people, I concluded that in some eyes, not all eyes, but in some eyes, my college degrees and certificates from Lynchburg, Virginia State, Morehouse, not Moorhead, Morehouse, UVA, Harvard, University of Lynchburg, the doctorate, doesn't make a difference. My 20 years in raising millions of dollars for nonprofit doesn't make a difference. 9 years on the school board, years on city council, volunteer experience, doesn't make a difference. You really believe that?
I do. Yeah.
Why?
Well, like if the last election, I had a person running against me that was a convicted felon. That the first night of the debate, he was in jail. But you still had people say, I'm not qualified. They'd rather put him because he was a Republican and I was considered a Democrat, even though I really consider myself independent. And I said, even though that's the most hurting thing for me, here I am, a man of faith, a executive pastor of a church, who's given all my life to serving others, have been recognized by Oprah, recognized by Paul Newman, recognized by numerous awards, have given, and again, I don't do it for accolades or no such thing. I've proved myself to make sure I'm at the table with all kinds of degrees and made sacrifices. I had over $100,000+ in school loans to make sure I'm at this table. But yet, because I wasn't a part of a particular party, they rather choose a convicted felon versus me. And that let me know, regardless of my background, regardless of my faith, a man of God who does not miss us. I've missed maybe one Sunday in 30 years because I had the flu. Who loves the Lord with all of his heart, who gives continuously. But yet, I had people to attack me on the radio host. I've had them to attack me during that campaign and say, oh, I'm not qualified. Oh, he's not good for our city. He needs to be replaced because I was not a part of a particular party. All that stuff on paper didn't make a difference to them.
So that's because of your political party, not because of your race, though, right?
I think also because of my party, but also because it didn't. But even so, you need to vote for the most qualified person.
Don't you think the people also, though, want to vote for the people who have the same? And I won't. There was a word, and I'm blanking out on it that I was really searching for. Same morals, I guess. But same beliefs, but really same principles, right? And I understand, Guy's a felon, but then again, our president is a convicted felon. And we know how that went, right? Is that legit? Right? I mean, people get charged with things or whatever that they, But when people are voting for people, there could be people who, like yourself. I mean, you've done a lot of amazing things. I don't believe
in party voting. I've never, only reason I did it this time because it was such an attack.
But it's more issues than party, right? A lot of people associate party with issues. Democrats, higher taxes. Republicans, lower taxes, right? And whether that's fair or not, I think a lot of people view it that way, right? And someone may vote Republican because they think that they're going to, lower taxes and do a number of different things, more individual rights, less government, right? That's typically a Republican stance. Democrats, I think people perceive higher taxes, more government, that type of thing, the government to help people, whereas Republicans tend to think, hey, we want people to help themselves. So because you're a Democrat, because you have different beliefs, it doesn't mean that you're not qualified or that none of this stuff you did matters. It's just they don't want your views and your beliefs.
The problem would be there is they don't know me. That's why I try to say they don't know me. They would say, oh, he's going to be for a higher tax. And I'm for supporting our community and not our higher tax, but making sure we have enough funds to do what we need to do. That's why I didn't vote for so low, because I know we still have this to do, that to do, and that to do. Like we had a pad-ready site we wanted to do. We had pad-ready sites in the business development area where you have a pad-ready site for a business to come in, and all you got to do is sit down and build a building on top of this because they have the certain infrastructure already in place. Certain things we could not do in our budget because we didn't have that pad-ready site. Danville had a pad-ready site and got a big business recently. So that shows you, again, how important it is to have certain things in that budget so you can do certain things. So again, if they know me, they can see me and what I believe in. Again, that's why I try to show what I have done or who I am versus this and that. But again, I think even when it comes down to it, they didn't care about who I was as a person. It was mainly, it went down to that party label.
So it wasn't necessarily that all that you had done and all you accomplished didn't matter, right? I mean, that's kind of what jumped out at me was,
honestly,
wow.
I think so in certain people's eyes, it doesn't matter. It was the first time I even ran as a Democrat. Last time, I've always run as an independent.
Mm-hmm.
I had the same situation as an independent. When Larry Taylor ran against me, he lost. I'm aiming like that, but you know what I'm saying? It was an independent. And I'm trying to think, was he a Republican? I can't remember I don't know if he was a Republican or not. But again, but normally, again, they knew he more so sided with the Republican Party. But again, they didn't want me as well. Again, I try to show again what I've done, but I just, in my experience,
but you did win.
Yes. But I was again, so many people were still against me, against voting for me. Again,
but you can't expect everyone to want to vote for you.
Oh no, I don't. I don't expect that. They killed Jesus, so I totally understand that. I'm just saying overall, the reason why I wrote that is because I feel like, again, and I wrote it after my sister died from cancer.
Mm-hmm.
Within 3 months, they said she would be gone, and she was gone. And afterwards, what was so sad to me was that after that happened, I was getting attacked on Facebook because someone wanted to use our gym. And I was attacked on Facebook because I didn't let them use our gym because there was something that happened, whatever, or we had to charge a fee or whatever. I can't remember the situation. But I'm like, golly, after all of this and all of that, and in the midst of a campaign, so I wrote that out of hurt. Here I am in person who's giving myself to the community, but it's still not good enough. So I wrote that out of a lot of hurt.
Do you ever think that maybe you take things too personally?
Well, I'm a people pleaser.
I understand, but that's kind of where I'm going to, because you're not going to be able to please everybody.
Oh, I definitely know that.
And, that
was my reason for writing that.
The person who flies off the handle because you can't use the gym, it's like, okay, whatever.
Yes.
But you take all this stuff so personally, that's got to wear on you.
And that's why I wrote that, to let people know, as long as you please God. That was from that summary, the main thing is God pleased with your life? Because you cannot, that's my point. You can't please people. I had all these degrees. I have all these sacrifices. I've won all these awards. But man is still not pleased. But is Jesus pleased with your life? And that's where I went to with that. To telling young men, I don't care what you do. I encourage you to do this, do that. But at the bottom of the line, at the bottom of the day, is Jesus pleased with your service? And that's what it comes to.
Because I will be honest with you, when I read this, it hit me like, wow, where is this coming from? And obviously the context of your sister passing away, helps kind of clarify it. But, I kind of keep circling back to, despite the fact that not everybody, buys into everything that you say or do, I mean, you still won. You're still on council. Yeah.
But again, I know truly I cannot please everyone. I definitely know that. I definitely know that, and I've been a people pleaser. That's one of my weaknesses. But again, knowing that after all of that is what I came to realize, that you cannot please people. For a people pleaser, that's a challenge.
Should you try?
You should do your best. Again, is Jesus happy with your service? And I had to, almost as therapy, but just with self-evaluation and where you are and where you need to be.
Do you think Jesus wants us to please other people, or does he want us to do with the right thing?
I think Jesus wants to please him. So I'm doing things to please Jesus. Again, I'm not trying to please everybody. I know that's not going to happen. My goal is Jesus pleased with my service? And I'm doing my job to please Jesus, the way what Jesus would do. So I look at my life as a servant life. I look at my life as a way of giving to my community. And how would Jesus do this? How would Jesus do that? So I put my life in that. And that helped me in dealing with being a people pleaser. That helped me to evaluate myself and my work and what I was doing.
What's next for you?
Get my city back. That's number one. We're just at least a better place in our city, where the city's not hurting, where the staff are not leaving meetings crying, where it's not, if if you could see the emails that go back and forth consistently, I'm like, my Lord, give them a break. Constantly. It's frustrating. So what I have decided doing, I have to do responses. We appreciate the work you do. Thank you for this. You don't want to be harassed all day for your job. Your broadcast was horrible. You did this. You didn't ask that question. Can you imagine somebody just dog you all day long?
I have a wife.
But she loves you.
Okay.
She's going to support you. She's going to encourage you. If not, you'll get a divorce. She's going to support you. So you have people. So I look at myself as an encourager. The people who are working hard, that are getting attacked consistently. I'd say, I appreciate you. And I give them a scripture. I say, thank you for your service.
There's one more thing I wanted to ask you about. The foster kids.
Yes. Boy.
40?
Yeah, that's a lot. I need my head examined.
Yeah.
Yes. Yeah. I've always been an overachiever. You know, and males are hard to place. The females are hard to place. And I just have a passion. I think, when I was doing my mentor program, I was giving back to the parents. They weren't really doing it. To me, they weren't doing enough to support the child. They didn't keep them focused on this area, focused on that area. And I said, well, if as a parent, how can I do things differently? That's when I started fostering kids, some 26 years ago. You know.
How many at one time?
About 6 at one time. Yeah, it's a lot. Yeah.
How do you juggle all that?
You know, I have support staff. I have support people helping me out. Luckily, the best I've been there in school anyway. So I'm working or whatever. So on Tuesdays, I have city council. I have somebody help me on Tuesdays. But most of the time I'm there, I have dinner every day. Unless it's a Tuesday, but usually dinner every day. Because by the time they get home from school is when I wind down as well. And Jubilee's closed at 6 for that one part. We have athletic programs, but I don't do those. I'm too old for that. But that's when we have family time and talk. Someone will come out, like one kid, he just refused to eat with us. But that's because, some surroundings he was in with his life. But I try to do what I can to be that consistent supporting family for them.
You do a lot for the community. There's no doubt about it.
Try to do my part.
You're going to get city council under control or what?
I'm asking the citizens next election. Let's see what you do. What are you going to do to get it under control? I only have one vote.
Sterling, thank you.
Yes.
I've really appreciated the conversation and getting to know you better.
Thank you, and I appreciate you having me. I really do. Thank you for this opportunity to talk with your audience, talk with you, to share my thoughts. Again, the document, I wrote out of my real beliefs. That's my real thought. And more so to my African-American brothers, they got to have a voice, and they need to hear my voice in areas where I need to really talk to them about. I did some other things after that about being at the table and encouraging people to serve on boards because everybody's voice is heard. So everybody's voice is at that table, not just one voice, one population, a Democrat or Republican, but everybody is at that table making decisions.
Makes a lot of sense.
Yes, sir.
Thank you very much.
Thank you for having me. I appreciate it. God bless you.